What a busy afternoon, guys. Thank you for being here. We're basically going to be talking about, if you're a student, how to get a job and how to be more involved in the space. So we'll start off with some introductions. I'm Arsh. I'm the co-founder of Generation Bitcoin and the Bitcoin Students Network. I also work at the Human Rights Foundation.
Hi, I'm Owen Aston. I'm currently a senior at the University of Colorado, started the Colorado Bitcoin Club there, and I'm interning at Onramp right now.
Hey everyone, well first thank you all so much for being here this afternoon. My name is Hough. I am a rising senior at Cornell and with Arsh, co-founder of Bitcoin Students Network and currently interning at Galaxy.
Hi, my name is Domingo. I'm a sophomore at the University of New Hampshire. I'm the president of the UNH Bitcoin Club, and I'm also a co-founder of Generation Bitcoin.
So very distinct backgrounds here, right? We met a lot of students at this event. A lot of the students from neighboring universities are kind of spending their time here, and people flew in from all around as well. And we're kind of getting the common question of, how did you get into what you're doing right now? How do you meet people? Kind of giving some tips on how to make connections and get more involved. So I'd like to hear from everyone, how did you guys get involved in the space and what were your first stepping stones as a student?
Well, I can maybe go ahead and start. And I would just say the first thing is to all the students who may be listening now, later, you don't need to change whatever you're currently interested in to be interested in Bitcoin and to be interested in working to build this new parallel system. So for me, it just started in high school. There was just a class called blockchain. That was my first touch point. Also, I think there's many touch points along a journey. And then started reading podcasts or books, podcasts, attended the Human Rights Foundation, also Freedom Forum, and that started connecting dots. Just kept studying, and then I put together an independent major on Bitcoin, joined Generation Bitcoin with Autumn, Arsh, and Ashana, and led to the Bitcoin Students Network. So I think just the general takeaway theme is that it can kind of snowball upon itself, but you just start by taking the first step.
Yeah, Owen.
Yeah, so I found my way to Bitcoin around 2018 through my dad. We just always talked about it. That was my first coins, I guess. But mostly I kind of really fell into it in this past year. I was starting the Bitcoin Club of Colorado in January, and then finding an internship with Onramp this summer. So I'm still kind of finding, like I said, I've been around in Bitcoin for a while, but I've really dove in more in the past 8 months than I ever have been.
For me, it also started with my dad. It kind of started where I was a little bit hesitant to join it, and then I went to Austin BitDevs and I met developers and designers in the space. I went to Unchained Capital's headquarters, and that was when I realized I wanted to be a part of the space and work and learn about it. And so from that point on, I was hooked, and I kept learning about it on my own through lots of podcasts and having discussions with other Gen Zers who are interested in it, and now we're here.
And some are Bitcoin too, right?
Yes. My initial intro into it was through UX design, and so I had done summer Bitcoin in 2022, and that was an amazing experience, and it was a lot of learning curves and a lot of things I didn't know, but if you push yourself and you know what you want to learn in what aspect of Bitcoin, go after it, see what you can do, and make it happen.
And Arsh, you have an interesting story too, with TabConf and starting the library at your school.
Yeah, I mean, so in high school, I started a library in my school basically with, cold DMing a bunch of authors to donate books to my school and some neighboring schools around, to just kind of set it up, get the word out there, right? I think there's a trend within Bitcoiners where it's, once you start sort of understanding, you kind of have that theme in which you want other people to know about it as well. And then, we started Generation Bitcoin. We got invited to MIT to sort of present on it, and that's where I met the Human Rights Foundation. But you'll notice a theme here is that a lot of us went to events and found our footing there. Which many of you are in the right place if you want to start getting a Bitcoin job there. But in crowds like these especially, it can be kind of overwhelming. There's a bunch of people. It's like, who do I talk to? Which companies do I go to? You guys said networking, talking to other people. For Autumn, right? Like, how is it that you network? Like, how do you talk to people? And how do you find the right people to talk to?
When you're first starting to build a network, it can be a little daunting and pretty scary because you're like, I don't know exactly what part of Bitcoin I want to go into. I haven't done any proof of work myself. Don't let that get to your head. It's all about coming up to people, knowing who they are, what they do, what their organization does or company focuses on, and introducing yourself and being curious. If you know how to ask the right questions, if you know how to use the material that you've been learning to further your Bitcoin education with the people along that route, you can start to build a network, and the more events you go to and the more you introduce and the more you take interest in the people there and see what they have to offer and what you can learn from them, that's when you just keep compounding this knowledge and you get to meet so many awesome people.
And I think you just brought up a really good point about proof of work, and this is a new industry, only about 15 years old, and so if you just start signaling out like, hey, I'm ready to learn, I want to start contributing, that goes a super long way. And maybe Owen, to you with starting the club and now at Onramp.
Yeah, that was probably my big proof of work moment. It was a great way to meet local Bitcoiners in the area, in the Denver area. And it was a big part of the reason why I found the internship I did, and I was just able to show for it. But like I said, that really all happened in the last 8 months, and I'm better than all of us up here. And so, I'm 23. It's good to know that you can get in at any time, and there's so many different routes to go.
And this is building off of what Ella mentioned earlier, that Bitcoin is kind of something in your toolbox, right? People may be confused. I had some people, ask this week as well. They're like, oh, should I shift my major into economics? Should I shift my major into computer science? You kind of grapple with this idea of Bitcoin being a tool in your toolbox. Can you expand on that more?
Yeah, sure. So pretty early on in my kind of Bitcoin journey, I made a Twitter because that's where the best source of news is. And so my handle is 21 million for the 21st because I think the 21 million Bitcoin are tools for the 21st century that can be used in a variety of ways. And so when you're thinking about, okay, I want to work in Bitcoin or in this industry, Bitcoin is just one tool in your toolbox. You still need, people with a business degree or other skills to offer, other tools in their toolbox. So I think that's just another important point that, having an interest in Bitcoin isn't quite enough. You need to show how you can also be additive in other ways.
Can I add to that? So I think a great way to find that is to look at a problem that you're facing or see something that you're interested in and ask the people out there in the space, what are some things that I should be thinking about? What are some things that the space needs that's not being developed right now? And when you can kind of connect that to what your interest is in Bitcoin, you can start to come up to the solution with it. And that's when you start to build things. And it's a slow and rolling ball from there.
And I'll just have a quick caveat. You can also be the Bitcoiner in your company. You don't necessarily have to work for a Bitcoin company. You can just, be committed to building this new system.
Yeah. We touched on connecting, building, showcasing your proof of work, right? I want to hear from each one of you. How do you sort of compile your proof of work? It's sort of easy to lose track in, even attending a conference, attending a program. This is all proof of work that leads towards getting your next foot in the door. So, how do you guys feel about building your proof of work?
Owen, you've been live streaming your club's meetings, so that's a great way, just making visible what you're doing. I don't know if you want to touch a bit more on that.
Yeah, just getting content out there and just being just a good citizen. I think Bitcoin is one of the most friendly, optimistic communities. Everyone just loves to talk to everybody, so I just think, you just got to put yourself out there, and the first step's the hardest, but once you do, it gets easier, and that's why I'm up here now, and it's only been about 8 months, so.
And I would say for me, I just started writing. I enjoyed writing. It's how I, was learning and processing the new information. So I wrote an article for Bitcoin Magazine. I I started a Medium and just published articles there, and that kind of was my first initial, kind of input into this world. So just make visible the work you're doing behind the scenes at step one.
And
just like kind of post stuff on Twitter and your LinkedIn, and so people can see what you've been doing and the journey that it did to get there.
Comment, like people on Twitter.
And to add to that, don't be afraid to use your schoolwork to be able to, as an avenue to learn more about Bitcoin. That's what I did. I'm studying information science currently at the University of Colorado, and so we have a lot of open-ended projects, and have been fortunate enough to make a lot of them. I've been using the Mempool API, and so use what you're learning in school and try to find ways to incorporate Bitcoin in there. There's a Bitcoin mantra for everything.
Yeah, and I mean, the three of you are in school, you're interested in Bitcoin, kind of spreading the idea of Bitcoin, which is why you all started your own Bitcoin clubs, which is truly remarkable. Because we see the theme of, there's a lot of blockchain clubs, there's a lot of crypto clubs, and we're kind of, it's an uphill battle, but, getting some Bitcoin information in there is truly a start, and this is what all of you have experience in doing. So, what made you want to start your own club and give some encouragement to some people who want to do their own thing?
Yeah, so what made me want to start my own club, I went to one of the Boulder meetups, but they ended up kind of dying out, and I just figured, you know what, why don't we utilize the space on campus? It's free, and what a great way to meet local Bitcoiners and expand my network. So that was my big reason to get it going and hopefully keep it going.
Yeah, for me, I think just in the Bitcoin space, community is hugely central to the success and where it's going. And so I just wanted to create a place on campus where every Thursday we come and we gather and we have a conversation about Bitcoin. It's just a place where we can come, like we're all here, and you have a common interest, come learn, disagree on topics, question each other. So that was a huge part of the motivation there. And Autumn, I think you had a similar...
Yeah, I had a similar situation as well. I just love Bitcoin, I love talking about it, and I love connecting with people about it. And there's a lot of interest in the space, and a lot of students especially. And so if you can get them into one room just to talk about it and learn about it together, that sense of community takes it so much further and keeps you motivated intrinsically, because you see that there's other people that are in the same position as you. And so when you grow this community at your schools, it creates a place for you to talk about it, to learn about it together, and to push yourself as well as each other. And I think that's really important.
Yeah, and I might just add one more thing that I kind of realized. I found myself saving my work and time, economic energy in Bitcoin, so preserving my energy into the future. But I also had a realization of where am I expending my present energy? What world system am I working to grow or support? And so, I'm at school, and that's why I started the Bitcoin major, because as Owen, you brought up applying your schoolwork over to Bitcoin, I was already scribbling in the margins about Bitcoin or how I thought it, could connect. And so I just wanted to shift my focus and my time into the future with Bitcoin in it.
Yeah, and Ella, while you're still on the mic, there's a lot of, like I mentioned, blockchain clubs, a lot of crypto clubs, people trying to find their way, finding their interests. Why is it important to have a Bitcoin club? Why is it important to have a Bitcoin presence among students, amongst universities?
Yeah, how I think about it, I think Bitcoin and blockchain, they're just solving different problem statements. And, we know there's only so much time I have on this earth, and I just made the decision for myself that with the time that I have, I want to spend that focusing on Bitcoin, focusing on something that has values that really resonate with me. So freedom, liberty, private property rights, peer-to-peer, decentralization. That's just the world and the time that I wanted to spend in that direction.
Could I add? So I think a really important thing for Gen Zers to understand is that there's hope with our future, and especially with our monetary system, our politics, everything that our world is facing. At least I feel a little uncertain and overwhelmed with what could happen. And Bitcoin allows us to have that hope and open that conversation and say, it's okay, we can figure this out together as a generation. And so it's really important to to understand the distinction between cryptocurrency and Bitcoin, especially in these student organizations, because sometimes that conversation isn't being had in those demographics. We don't think in those ways. We're not thinking long term, we're thinking more short term. We're not thinking about buying a house, we're thinking about, oh, what am I doing tomorrow? What am I doing next week? And so it's important for these Bitcoin-only clubs to keep popping up and keep having these conversations, because it's not just giving our generation hope, but it's the education we need to build our futures and the lives that we want to lead in the future.
Autumn, you just brought up such a great point, because I think a recent study found that 73% of younger generations, because of the current financial system we find ourselves in, the economy, are hesitant to set up long-term goals. I mean, if you look at loneliness, that's going off the charts, increasing. So thank you for bringing that up.
Yeah, and just in a world full of just pessimism, it feels like Bitcoin's a breath of fresh air. Everyone's optimistic. I mean, this conference has been amazing. Been able to shake as many hands, and that's one tip of advice I could give to any students out there is just shake as many hands, smile, and just be a good citizen. Just talk to everybody, talk to as many people as you can, because you never know who you're going to meet and what route they're going to take you.
And Ona, you brought up another great point too. Also, Bitcoin isn't perfect. We need people working and building in this space, and so that's why it's so important to get younger generations, who Bitcoin is really for, involved in shaping this future.
Yeah, I mean, and the name of this panel is A Student's Guide to Working in Bitcoin. All of us sort of found our journeys in working in the space actually not through like a typical job listing or a connection, an email blast, but through actually meeting people. And the idea is there's a lot of Bitcoin companies who are just they're startups. They don't have infrastructure for internships and sort of junior positions. So I think on behalf of all of us, I'd like to call on all Bitcoin companies to integrate internships and allow opportunities for younger people to get involved, because that's how you sort of lay those stepping stones.
And the Gen Zers that I've talked to, a lot of them are interested in it, and a lot of them have the skills to work in the space. It's just how do we find the support that they need so that we can bridge that gap. And so I think that's a conversation that Gen Zers and companies alike need to have together, because if we want to continue to grow the space, we need the next generation to take over, build their skills to know how to interact with this space. And that's the best way to do it, through internships, through events like this, and building your own careers and sharing with each other.
And Owen, you've done a really good job of kind of combining your club meetings with the Boulder Bitcoin meetup, right? To kind of bring those voices in to help students. Do you want to touch on that too?
Yeah, I think that was also a big reason when we started the club, was just create a networking opportunity for students and any students interested to meet industry pioneers in the local area. But yeah, just to touch on what Arsh said, I think a lot of the Bitcoin companies don't have designated internships. A lot of them are startups, a lot of them are brand new. And so I think that's where cold messaging is a really good tool to use when you're young. And don't be afraid to send messages out to anybody. And you'll probably hear a lot of no's, you might not even get a response, but I think that's the best way to reach out and find opportunities to work.
And definitely reach out to all of us. And if we can do anything to be helpful to you, we will.
Yeah, I mean, the Bitcoin community, as you all may share in the thought of being a very open place to be, right? So it's not necessarily it's not like a TradFi conference or a more professional business conference in some sense, where you kind of need to see who you're talking to and you kind of be afraid to reach out to them, right? So closing thoughts for anyone. If there's one piece that students should take away from, what would that be?
Maybe I can just go back to some points I mentioned earlier. I just think about, you're here at a Bitcoin conference, so you're probably on board with saving some of your wealth in Bitcoin. So just think about, where are you putting your current time and energy? And also just keep in mind that you don't need to change your interest to be interested in working in Bitcoin. We need your existing interest, and you do have something to add.
I think constantly push yourself. So when there's something that you think is out of your realm of comfort, do it, because it's going to have better results than not doing it. And so push yourself when you come to these conferences and introduce yourself to as many people and put your name out there, because you don't know what that could do for you and you don't know how that will shape your journey.
Yeah, and just shake as many hands as possible. Just go up to everybody, just introduce yourself. You're your best salesperson. So no one's going to sell yourself besides you. So that's what I'd say.
Can I add one? Also, be curious and constantly ask questions, because this space is constantly growing. There's new developments, there's new material, and there are so many areas that you can learn about Bitcoin. And so constantly listen to podcasts, constantly read articles, because if you're constantly growing yourself, you can engage in conversations that you might not be able to engage in if you didn't do that research. And that in and of itself is proof of work. So just starting there is the best way.
Yeah, and just to close out, I want to hit on open source as well, right? You never know where your path may lead. I know a lot of people who have taken the Summer of Bitcoin internship, including yourself, Autumn, where they're like, maybe I am interested in open source development. Our friend Ishana here started working on Bitcoin Core when she was in high school, making commits to Bitcoin Core. And there is funding models for this. A lot of people don't know that you can get paid to work on Bitcoin. Institutions and orgs are becoming more friendly to part-time grants as well. You have OpenSats, Brink, HRF, and the like.
Chain Code Scholarship. Do you want to chat about that?
Yeah, no, you go for it. Yeah.
Chain Code Labs. If you are a student, they will pay for your entire college tuition. In exchange, in the summer, you work on open source and contribute to this space. So check them out, Chain Code Labs.
Open source is a huge opportunity. And with that, thank you, everyone. Thank you to our panelists.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys.